Welcome back, everybody. In this video, I'm going to deploy our app. So we're going to make a Heroku app. We're going to push to it and make sure everything's set up. So let's do that. So one quick note of setup here. I've obviously already signed up for a Heroku account. And what I've also done is I've installed their tool belt, which is just a CLI. You can just Google Heroku tool belt. You can download it. I think you can also install it from Brew and other places like that. So I've signed up for an account. I've installed the tool belt, and then I've also signed in to the CLI. And so that's all you got to do, and then you should be able to just continue from what I did here if you want. So I've gone ahead and made a new Heroku app myself. You can also type Heroku create. This will give you a random URL, a random app name. You can change that app name, but it's also easy to just go to your dashboard and make a new app, and then take this get remote, grab this get remote right here, and just add that. So let's do get remote, add, call it production, could also call it Heroku. So now if I do get remote-v, so we have our origin where we're pushing our code to, and then we have this new Heroku app. Okay, so there's our remote. All we have to do, git push, production master. And while this compiles and pushes and does all this stuff, there's one thing that's worth noting. By default, Rails, I believe, still installs the SQLite gem, and that won't work on Heroku. You have to have the Postgres gem. So I already have Postgres in here, so you need to add the PG gem here if you don't already have it. Okay, now Heroku has finished deploying, and I just cut that part out because there's, all this setup stuff that's not fun to watch. But so it's created our app, it's deployed it to this name that I set. So let's go ahead and go there. So here's our homepage. Still need to do a homepage, super exciting. So if we go to log in, we get a problem. And so one thing we can do is we can do Heroku logs -tail, and then we'll pass the get remote. You can also do /a, and then you can do the Heroku name. So let's tail the logs and let's see why this happened. So let's refresh. So the error here is PG undefined table. It's right there. PG undefined table relation users does not exist. And the reason this happens, if we cancel out of the logs, is because Heroku does not automatically migrate the database. So we can do Heroku run Rails db migrate. I'll do -r production to pick that remote, even though there's only one Heroku remote in this project. It's just a good habit to get into. So it's running migrate. It's finished, so let's refresh, and now let's go just sign up for a new person. Okay, and we are getting an error from our checkbox. Okay, so where did that request go? I bet I know what it is. It is because we're still trying to hit localhost. Yeah. So inside of our component, we are still trying to do this. So we need this URL base to point to production in our production environment, and then obviously localhost and development. And so we need a different envar or environment variable for this. So what I like to use is this little thing called .env. This little gem called .env, and it will give us these separate environment variables. So we can have one for development, we can have one for production. So then over here we make a new file called .env. Let's call this API base. Let's set it to localhost. So now inside of our form, let's grab all these. Let's call it API base, and then we'll pass in our environment variable. So we're accepting this new value. Let's go ahead and make a new property in the component for it. API base, prop types, string. Let's go ahead and make this required. Really all these should be required. And then up in our submit method, we will, let's do this /API as well. Let's take that in. So do this .props .API base. And let's restart our server just in case that needs to be picked up. So now if we click these, we see an error. Oh, so if we look here on what was actually called, it's localhost 3000/records. So we forgot to put the /API right here. So let's refresh. I think you have to restart the server to reload that file. So let's restart. Okay, and everything works again. So let's go ahead and commit that. So we added the gem, added the new property. So added an env file for switching between API bases in different environments. Environments. Just go ahead and push that up. And then push that up to Heroku. Okay, now that that's deployed, let's make sure that we set the config variable in Heroku, API base equals, and let's grab the name of the app. And then do /API. Okay, and let's reload. When you set a new config variable for Heroku, they re-roll or they restart the app, and so it might take a second to come back. Okay, moment of truth. Hey, it works. Okay, great. So we can see the request is going to our app name /API. Cool. So our dashboard is not working, so let's do Heroku logs tail. See what's going on here. Okay, error I'm getting here. Yeah, that's a little easier to see. So meaning undefined method text for nil class. So it's trying to call text on our quote, but we don't have any quotes. It's throwing an error. So there's a couple of things we could do to fix that. One is on our dashboard, we can check to see if the quote exists. So we could say like if quote dot present and then not show it on the page. The other thing we can do is we can do Heroku run railsdb seed, so we can get our test user and our quote data seeded in the database. So let's just do that, put the quotes in there, and then we can also see the dashboard with our test user. So reload now. So here's our user that we signed up with. If we log out, I think I typed the password wrong. Go to our dashboard. Okay, cool. Here's our test user with our fake data. Okay, so now it is working. And if you want, you can also go to credosapp.heroku.com, which I'll also put a link below in the description, and you can sign up and use it as well. So that's where I'll stop it for this video. We have deployed our app and it's a real thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start using it, and I may make more videos based on things I come across that I want done or fixed or that I think would be interesting to show. But hope you've enjoyed the process so far. As always, leave me questions or comments if you have them, or hit me up on Twitter @JohnMosesman. Thanks.